It's episode 332.
We are talking gut health and ferments.
This one may get a little gassy. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss, and as always, I have Dr. Julie Wyss with me today, the wonderfully radiant. You look really pretty in your blue again.
I hope you didn't say anything about like gassy or ferment or anything like that. I like pickles and kraut.
You do like pickles and kraut, yeah. I was like, well, I wasn't going to call you the queen of flatulence. Like, that's not true.
Inappropriate.
Yep, not true at all. Well, welcome back. So we're talking ferments. Last episode, we talked juicing. Yeah. So I thought that today would be an excellent time to transition into ferments and gut health because juice can ferment. We talked about that. And is that good for you or not? All of that kind of stuff.
Ferments are great.
Ferments are great. And your gut health is one of the most important parts of your health. A lot of you may or may not know this, but your gut bacteria makes up about 7.8 to 7.9 pounds of your body weight. So if you're a 100-pound person, like a child, it's 7% of their body weight. If you're a 200-pound person, it's 4% of your body weight.
Sure glad you're doing that math.
So for somebody that's 100, let's say it's a 150-pound female, it's about 5% of their body weight. And that's a significant amount of like normal good bacteria.
I must have extra bacteria.
Oh, it just depends. Okay, stop. You're okay. Your body weight is significantly driven by your bacteria in your gut because your gut health controls. It's your second immune system. Some would say it's your primary immune system. I agree with that. I think it's 1-to-1 with the amount of actual T cells that are produced in your blood to help fight viruses and bacteria. But the bacteria in your stomach and your gut and GI is what's most important for your first line of antibiotic defense.
Well, I was going to say your true testament to how healthy you are or how often you get sick is what's going on in your gut. And so that's why I think gut health, sometimes it feels like it can be like, oh, everybody's talking about gut health and we need a probiotic. And I think maybe we'll talk about a little bit about over-the-counter probiotics today. But again, if you're constantly sick, then yes, chiropractic, but then we do need to focus on gut health because you need them both to be working appropriately to be able to boost that immune system.
Yeah, so let's dive into probiotics immediately. There's a lot of research out about probiotics. It's been out for 30 years roughly about probiotics. But one of the biggest kickers is that chronic use of probiotics is actually not good for you. There's been research out since 2015, showing that they did research on lab rats. And what they showed is that they did three groups. One that got a placebo, one that got probiotics, and then one that got a probiotic for 30 days and then let the gut reproliferate. And what they found over 90 days is the animals that had antibiotics, they were all given antibiotics. And then the animals that had antibiotics with the placebo means that they got basically a white sugar pill. Their gut reproliferated, reestablished itself at about 90 days, fully, 100% back. The animals that were given probiotics for 90 days straight only got back to 80% of their total gut bacteria after 90 days. And the ones that were given it for 30 days and then given 60 days to replenish got back to full gut health after 45 days. So what they found in that study, the conclusion of that is that daily doses of probiotics actually is not beneficial to the gut over the long term to reestablishing normal gut flora and bacteria. So when we see these things out on store shelves that say daily probiotics, like they literally say that on the label, that's actually a detriment to your gut health. You should be able to establish normal gut health with some probiotics, and then how do you feed it? That's the key. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think the because everybody's like, well, I need to take this all the time for really good gut health. That's why I think ferments are super important. But it's kind of, if you've gotten sick, if you've gotten an antibiotic, or those things that happen, that's when a probiotic comes in, because I like it. It's like a little starter. Everybody talks about sourdough, or they make their own homemade bread. It's like that yeast starter. And so that probiotic, you take that, it kind of primes the pump, it gives you some good bacteria, and then they start to proliferate. They do their own thing. And lots of times the other concern is if we're constantly adding in, then we can get over proliferation, and then we get too much. And there is a thing of too much of a good thing, because then they start to also attack. And I think that's why when you're constantly taking it, you can never get to that 100%, because they're also that breakdown of it. And so again, like it's just it should be in cycles. It should be routine. It's not something that we need to always be taking.
Yeah, and we see it in clinical practice all the time. Like, we don't recommend probiotics to our patients to be taken daily for months and months at a time. We'll recommend them for a 30-day or maybe a 60-day, depending on what's going on, and that's it. And then a maintenance dose of taking it every couple 3 to 4 days to just help reproliferate the gut or help with that normal storage. And we get it all the time where our patients end up chronically sick. This is a once a week conversation where somebody comes in, they're chronically sick, and the first thing out of their mouth is, I take a probiotic.
Taking my probiotic.
Yeah, and do you take them daily? Yes, that's the problem. You're taking it daily. Your GI is not able to catch up. Your GI has become reliant on you putting it in artificially, and it can't get back to its normal, natural state and get back to that good, natural or natural native bacteria that's supposed to be in your gut. Now, what then happens is that now the gut then will transition, and the chronically sick is what happens. So one of the things that we've learned about with nutrition, as I'd like you to talk about this, is prebiotics, like inulin that we see with standard process. But the prebiotic is more important in my mind than the pro.
Well, we need to have the food there. If we're going to introduce, hey, if your friends are coming over to the house, that's going to be great. They're going to come over. But they're not going to keep coming over if you don't have the party snacks to entertain them.
Yeah, I get it.
So to keep really good bugs, to keep them proliferated in your gut, they need to have the food there for that. And so I was going to say, like, not all probiotics are treated equal. And so you'll see, okay, this is a prebiotic, this is a probiotic. Well, it'd be great to have them both together. And so you need to have the correct strains within the bottles. They need to be active. Like, we need to get better at reading the labels on the bottles, but we need to have that food there when we're going to entertain, we're going to introduce that bacteria, that really good gut health. We need to have the food there for them to actually eat so they can live. Because again, if you have a hostile environment in there, they're going to die off. If we have if we have too many of them, then they're not going to live, because there's not the inulin, there's not the prebiotic there to feed them.
And the diet is key. And that's why we're talking ferments. So those prebiotics, they are the food. The probiotics are the bacteria. And the best probiotic you can get is a vaginal birth and then breastfeeding, because your mom's giving you all of these amazing things to basically proliferate the gut. But then if you've had ear infections when you were a child, you start to deplete some of that. But if you hadn't been on antibiotics over the last 2 to 3 years and your diet's been decent, your gut bacteria should be pretty strong. But if your diet's been crap and really bad, and what I mean by that is most people don't know that in order to feed bacteria, they need plant-soluble fiber. That's what they're looking for. They need plant-soluble fiber. And that comes in the form of fiber from plants and fiber from fruits. So you're really fibrous vegetables. So broccoli, carrots, cauliflower, these things that have good fiber. Apple pectin, oranges with the pith. Like, if we look at whole food, like we have this stuff that's called whole food fiber, and that is just literally fiber.
It's like garden.
It's the garden's. It's the garden's guts. It's not the juice. It's the garden's guts. It's all the bacteria, all the material put together in a form. And you can take this. And yes, it doesn't taste the best. It kind of tastes like you're eating a burdock. But it's super important for your gut. And the thing that's nice is that it starts feeding that bacteria in your tummy. And that's what decreases the bloat.
That's what's important. Right?
Yes. And that's a big thing, is that if you're bloated, like there's stuff on the market right now. In particular, I see these advertisements right now. I believe it's for like colon broom or something like that. And it's designed to scrub your colon. It doesn't sound good to me. Like I would never want to brush in my colon. But they talk about this bacteria overload and this bloat. The reason why there's bloat is because that bacteria is, one, starting to ferment on itself, break itself down, and then it's producing methane.
And it's stuck in there. And this is where, like, I'm a very visual person. I look at that fiber. And I was talking again this week. We have these poop conversations every day. It's like that snowball that rolls down the hill. And so that fiber has to come in for everything else to kind of attach to it. And the fatty stuff, if we have gallbladder issues, it all attaches to that fiber, so then you can get rid of it and void it. And that's where the conversation comes up. Does your poop sink or float?
Sink or float. And it
right.
could
That's
be in either
really
one.
important. But that's why the fiber comes in. It rolls around in your gut to collect everything for you to finally get rid of it. And if you have the lack of fiber, if you're not eating those fibrous things, that's like we just talked about the gut bloat. That's where then we always feel like we don't ever quite feel full. Or we get tummy upset. We get kind of the agitation in our tummy, like some people call it like a nervous tummy, or sometimes we just always feel hungry. It's because the gut isn't working how it's supposed to.
And your fiber is not going to come from your carbohydrates. No. A lot of the time we hear carbohydrates, but guess what? The fiber that's supposed to be in that carbohydrate, like the actual husk and hull of the wheat, it's gone. That stuff's all been removed. It was removed in the process over 100 years ago. Like the way they process all of that, you don't get any of the good. You actually get the sugar from the carbohydrate, which then messes with your gut bacteria. They're not designed to process heavy fake sugar. In fact, they die off. And that's where the sugar shits come from.
And then that's also where then we can talk about candida. That's where we get the overgrowth, because that's the wrong kinds
of yeast.
Correct.
Yep.
Of in the gut. And then that's a whole nother topic. But again, like when we bring it back to, okay, we need to have really good gut health. Again, the ferments are what's going to help balance that and feed it the right way.
Yeah. And so if you look at gut health and we look at stability of the person mentally, socially, and emotionally, gut health is key. And, we talk a lot about in weight loss, insulin resistance. And when your body's become resistant to insulin, meaning your body's been dumping insulin into the system to counteract the amount of sugar you have in your bloodstream, your body becomes resistant to the reabsorption of everything. And then what happens is then you get this spike, and now your body can't lose weight. Well, how do you change that? You start eating fermented foods. Like that's a big thing, and start feeding these bacteria to start being able to process down and not dump tons of sugar into your bloodstream, which is a massive problem. And that's what leads to all this. And then we can't gain weight, and now we have changes in hormones, and it all comes back to gut health, right? So Dr. Julie, let's talk a little bit about mental stability, because serotonin, which is the feel-good chemical in your body, same thing with dopamine,
are all made in your gut.
Are all made in your gut, right? 70% is made in your gut, exactly. And I had a patient in a couple weeks ago, and she sat down with me, and she always asked me these questions right away, and I love taking care of her. She's like, "What's your feeling on serotonin?" And I look at her, and I'm like, "Okay, why do you ask?" Like that's the first question. Everybody wants to just jump in to like giving an answer. It's like when people say, "What do you know about chiropractic?" or "Do you know a chiropractor?" Well, why do you ask? Not, "Oh, it's me and come see me." Why do you ask? Like what? Well, then you're going to get, what's going to happen is you're going to actually get their thought process on what they're asking.
Versus your opinion.
And she's like, "Do you think it's good or not?" And I'm like, "Well, in what context?" Because serotonin's vital. It's a neurotransmitter in your body. It's vital for your brain to stay in normal rhythm, in normal social interactions. And when serotonin gets down and depletes in your system, that's when we see these mood changes, right?
Mood swings, depression, anxiety.
Yeah. And
like PTSD.
Exactly. And her thought, what she was getting at eventually was SSRIs, which are mood stabilizing drugs, are bad for you. Of course they are, because what happens is the serotonin that's in your body that's produced in your gut needs to be produced in your gut. It's not meant to just hang out in your system for days.
Right.
It's meant to be used, reabsorbed, broken down, and then new stuff is created. Nobody wants to be powering their car with 6-month-old gas if it's been sitting. And what happens is it lets that serotonin sit in the system, these medications, and it never gets reabsorbed. It never gets broken down, gotten rid of, and replaced with new. And then your body's working with second process stuff all the time. So yes, what I'm getting at here is that serotonin is not bad. It needs to be absorbed, broken down, and then new needs to be created in your gut. Your gut needs to be healthy in order for this to happen. If your gut's not healthy, that's when mood stabilizers come in to try to make you feel good because your gut's not producing enough serotonin. Therefore, we have to have it sit in the system.
And sometimes like we need that jump start, right?
Yep.
But our bodies are amazingly intricately made and developed, and they need to run a program. It's the same conversation. This could be so simplistic. Those people that wear chapstick. If you constantly put chapstick on, you're going to feel, maybe it's addictive, but you're going to say, well, I have to use it because my lips are always dry. But if you could go at least 2 weeks without putting chapstick on, your body will magically figure out again how to moisturize your lips naturally. So again, we have to allow the body the ability to do the program and run the program that it's supposed to do versus us always getting in the way of it. That's what medication does. Like our body is super smart. If you're going to constantly be taking the SSRI or anything for that matter, your body's going to be like, okay, then I don't need to do that anymore. It's going to put its resources elsewhere. So it is that balance of, you know, do we need to change the medication so then our body can start to do that. And then once our body understands and, okay, now I need to do this every day like I'm supposed to run my program, then that's when we no longer need to be reliant on those medications.
Right. Nailed it. 2 5. Well, you nailed it. And I love that. So let's talk about the ferments we should be eating. Because that, I mean, hell, we're kicking it off with ferments. So let's talk about the ferments we should be eating because in my mind, there's not really a bad ferment. It's just whether or not you can quote unquote stomach the taste.
Well, it's the taste, but again, not all ferments are created equal.
Right.
And that is the struggle that we're talking ferments. And some people are gonna be like, oh, hey, I'm gonna go get some kraut.
Well, wine's fermented
pickles.
Grapes.
Correct. But even some wines, right? Like you want to look for ones maybe that don't have as much sugar. So again, we have to go to the label reading that even if you want to add the ferment, that's great, but we need to take it a step further in. If we're going to look at the sauerkraut, we need to look and see, is that simply just the ferment in there, or is there a whole bunch of extra preservatives and sugars that have been added?
Color preservatives.
Correct.
That's a big one is color. Because
pickles. Do we really know what color pickles,
they're not meant to be yellow.
Right.
Like you pull a cucumber from your garden. What's the inside of a cucumber look like? Your pants. It's white.
Right. That's where people you think about whoa, wait, this should have came from my garden. But that's where we're playing the matching game. Kids they struggle with, wait, how is a cucumber a pickle when they don't look the same?
Yeah. Well, the big thing is they're not meant to be green on the inside. They're green on the outside. But for some reason, these companies that are out there
it's because studies have been done and it's more appealing to have that color. Just like we talked about produce being in certain color bags makes you want to eat the oranges in the red produce bag.
Yeah, exactly. And oranges used to be green. That's a big thing too. And that Thomas from Scotland, that Chiro, he's great. I hope he's listening. Dude, you were wonderful with all the knowledge. But he's like, did you guys know that oranges were originally green? And I was like, yes. Because they've now altered them to be orange, so they're more appealing. In the red bag makes you want to eat. The color red and yellow, hence the colors of McDonald's, makes you want to eat. But I don't want to pickle. Yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent. But guess what? Do you want to know why Julie and I know so much of this? We take care of the guy. We take care of one of the professional pickle packers in the United States, one of the authorities at actually creating pickle recipes.
And his name isn't Peter.
Nope. For Five Guys, for Famous Dave's, for all of these companies. Smucker's has a pickle line. It's the redheaded stepchild to their jelly company. Like he creates the chemical recipes to create these pickles. And he has told us firsthand that he has figured out how to do them and get the dye in there that's not dyed. That's not the carcinogen. But it's actually made with cumin and turmeric, and people can't stand it because their hands turn yellow, but the pickle still looks yellowish green.
They're good
and the water's cloudy, and it messes with their eyes, and they don't want to eat it, even though it's safer, tastes better, and more effective for your body versus taking in these things that just aren't healthy for you. Nothing beats homemade sauerkraut.
Absolutely.
Kimchi. Yep. There is something very special and medicinal about cabbage. Cabbage raw tastes medicinal. It does. I love cabbage. I do. I enjoy cabbage.
We have some in the fridge for dinner tonight.
You don't enjoy the ramifications of me eating cabbage. We do get a little weaponization, a little bit of methane comes out. But you know what? Like, cabbage is amazing. So are Brussels sprouts. Pickled Brussels sprouts, excellent. Now they're just a mini form of sauerkraut. And you can make this stuff. You can go get heads of organic cabbage, which you can find readily now at your farmers markets. Get the ones that aren't the size of 6 heads put together. Those are usually modified. Right. But the smaller ones, they're more dense, they're heavier, they have less water in them. You can slice that up. You can put that in a canning jar. You can put that with vinegar, and you can put a little bit of salt on top, can that up, and that will turn into vinegar. That's how my grandma, that will turn into sauerkraut. My grandma did that. And yes, it is. And when you know it's working well, it burps and it weeps and it seeps when you're making sauerkraut.
Burp your cans.
Yep. And it does push itself out through the lid because it's the fermentation process of it. And then when you get it out, oh, it tastes so good. I'm so hungry now. And it's crisp. And that's the thing too, is your ferment shouldn't be limp. Your ferment should be crisp. So like a good pickle should be crisp. Fermented carrots, fermented asparagus, fermented veggies come out crisp. They shouldn't be completely limp. If they're completely limp, they're kind of shot. They really didn't hold their value.
Well, and we're talking food, and then you're talking about, and I was thinking, drinking the good pickle juice and the kraut juice. Kombucha is a really good for gut health as well. So I don't think sometimes we think of it as a ferment, but that's really the process of what it's doing, and that's where it's a really good probiotic. Really helps with the gut health, and it's got a really good flavor as well that you can, it's super easy. You can make over the counter. You can make your own kombucha. Get the SCOBY. Get the really good starter. But that's also why sometimes it's so much easier just to be able to have it on hand, and that's where we have somebody that sources us and distributes in bottles that here locally, and the flavors are just they're out
of
really
this world. I've never had a better kombucha than Mike's with Pure Living. I seriously have not, and in fact, if you're listening to this, and if you're around the United States, just message us. We'll case up some bottles for you and send it to you. We have no problem with that. I'm gonna put you directly in contact with Mike too. But that stuff is delicious, and we've made kombucha at home. I used to do that years ago. Big old SCOBY in there, big old yeast. It's what does the job. And it's
great. It makes you feel good, and that's where you can do this at home. But sometimes the balance isn't the balance there, and
just
sometimes
buy
it's just easier.
And you're not going to control the flavors like they can. And honestly, the sugar content in Mike's is extremely low. Yep. Remember, the yeast and the bacteria eat the sugar up to ferment. It's not in the product. And
it's natural sugar. So we're not adding in additional sugars. It's the natural aspect of it.
So those are things you can do. And you can and kefir is the last one.
Yes.
Yep. Kefir you can make kefir at home. You can make kefir out of milk. There's milk kefir, which is good old grade A organic raw milk. You can do it with water as well. But kefir is another way to proliferate the gut with really good probiotics. And you could be eating kefir once a day. You could be doing it every couple days, but that feeds your bacteria. We're not trying to replace or rebuild.
This is your prebiotic.
We're trying to feed it and make it stronger. Yeah. Anything else, Dr. Julie?
No, I'm hungry.
I
kind of know what we're going to have.
Well, let's go get after these ferments. Everyone take care. Go out there. Have a wonderful week. And as always, leave your comments below if we can help you in any way. Take care, everybody. Bye.